December 7th, 1941, just before 8 a.m., Battleship Row, Pearl Harbor. It's a lazy Sunday morning in paradise, the air thick with the smell of salt water and diesel. Sailors on the USS Arizona are just waking up, coffee mugs in hand, when the sky screams. The first torpedo hits like a thunderclap from hell. Explosions erupt, brilliant orange plumes tear through the calm, and black smoke billows like a storm front rolling in. Bombs plummet, shaking the very earth and sending geysers of water skyward. The Arizona heaves as her forward magazine ignites in a cataclysmic blast. The 31,000-ton behemoth is lifted clear out of the water before she settles. Broken and burning, entombing over 1,000 souls in a steel coffin. Nearby, the USS Oklahoma capsizes, her crew trapped inside, desperately pounding on the hull for a rescue that would come too late for so many. Complete surprise achieved in under 2 hours. The meticulously planned strike by the Imperial Japanese Navy's Carrier Task Force claims over 2,400 American lives and cripples the U.S. Pacific Fleet. 8 battleships are damaged or destroyed. Airfields at Hickam and Wheeler are infernos. P-40 fighters reduced to smoldering wrecks before they could even take off. Yet, aboard the flagship Akagi, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the architect of this daring gamble, is not celebrating a Harvard-educated strategist. Yamamoto knows America. He had warned his own government months earlier, in the first 6 to 12 months of a war, "I will run wild and win victory upon victory. But then, if the war continues, I have no expectation of success." Japan, with its limited oil and steel, was striking a giant, hoping to cripple it before it could awaken. As reports filter in, Yamamoto's unease deepens. A critical oversight: the American aircraft carrier's Enterprise. Lexington and Saratoga were at sea, completely untouched. This wasn't a knockout blow, it was a provocation. Later that day, as the task force steams away, Yamamoto confides to his staff, "I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a terrible resolve." His words hang in the air like a prophecy. The attack, meant to secure Japanese expansion in Asia, instead unifies a divided America. The very next day, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declares it a date which will live in infamy, and the nation surges into war. Factories retool overnight, from cars to tanks, from refrigerators to aircraft. The sleeping giant stirs. Britain's Eighth Army is reeling, outgunned and outmaneuvered. But then, American steel starts arriving. The Lend-Lease program floods the Allies with materiel, and among them is a peculiar beast rolling off transport ships in Alexandria, the M3 medium tank, nicknamed the Grant by the British. When Italian troops spot these arrivals in the summer heat of 1942, laughter ripples through their ranks. "Look at that monstrosity," they jeered. The M3 stands awkwardly tall, with its main 75mm gun mounted on the side of the hull, and a smaller 37mm in the turret. It looked like a relic from the last war. "It's a circus tent on tracks," one Italian sergeant scoffs. "Unfit for the desert," they said. Too high a profile, too vulnerable. Compared to the sleek German panzers, it seemed like a joke sent from across the Atlantic. But the new commander of the Eighth Army, General Bernard Montgomery, sees potential. Monty drills his forces relentlessly, stockpiling supplies for a massive offensive. The Grants arrive in huge numbers, over 160 by October. That hull-mounted 75mm gun could hurl high explosive shells farther and harder than anything the Italians had. In the workshops, mechanics adapt them for the desert, fitting new air filters to combat the choking dust. On the night of October 23, 1942, under a barrage from 1,000 guns, Montgomery launches Operation Lightfoot at El Alamein. The Italian armored brigades hold the southern flank, their thin-skinned tanks dug in. "Fire," he yells, but his 47mm shell just bounces off the M3's sloped armor. Chaos erupts. The Grants pivot, their dual cannons spitting death explosive for bunkers, armor-piercing for tanks. The Italian lines crumble. Crews abandon their vehicles and flee into the dust. Rommel, racing back from sick leave in Germany, arrives to a nightmare. His panzer army is fuel-starved, outnumbered, and now outgunned. The Grants blast through wire entanglements and pulverize anti-tank positions. Italian morale shatters. The ridicule turns to terror. By November 4th, the Axis retreat begins a desperate 1,500-mile withdrawal to Tunisia. El Alamein becomes the first major Allied land victory of the war. As Churchill would later say, "Before Alamein, we never had a victory. After Alamein, we never had a defeat." Its firepower shifted the balance, buying precious time for even better tanks like the Sherman to arrive in force. Back in the Pacific, Yamamoto's fears were materializing. While his forces swept through the Philippines and Malaya, America's industrial engine was roaring to life. The Battle of Midway in June 1942 was a disaster for Japan, with 4 of its precious carriers sunk. The tide had turned. Yamamoto, the gambler who loved poker from his time in America, had bet on a quick knockout. Instead, he got a long, brutal fight. The architect of Pearl Harbor, the man who prophesied the rise of the sleeping giant, was gone. The M3 Grant, dismissed as a circus tent, became a symbol of America's industrial resolvent ugly, imperfect, The laughter in the desert had fallen silent, replaced by the roar of American engines, a sound that would soon echo across all of Europe. Thank you for watching. If you found this piece of history fascinating, be sure to hit that like button. See you next time.